Welcome to the Got Trauma Podcast with your hosts, Courtney K. and Monica Newland.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode.
Hello.
Hello.
Happy Wednesday? Yes.
Yes.
Wednesday.
No, it's Thursday.
Is it Thursday? See?
Yeah, it's Thursday.
Oh,
yeah, it's because it was a short week, right? It was the eclipse on Monday.
Yeah.
How was that for you? Because I felt like I was a little bit sick in the morning, and then I felt a lot lighter in the afternoon. I don't know, but other than that, I didn't really get to see anything.
I definitely believe that there was a big energy shift after the solar eclipse. Huge energy shift.
Yeah.
I'm definitely feeling more creative and more like I gotta expel stuff out of me.
Yeah.
Which is always a good time. Always a good time. So,
there was definitely a big shift in the frequencies. I feel like it was
absolutely.
What was so cool too was like when all the birds like went silent, because we were outside at the golf course and like we were listening to everything. You know, it's like loud and it's like springtime, and then all of a sudden it was dead silent.
It did the same thing here.
So weird,
and it was super eerie. Like there wasn't a breeze. There was nothing. It was absolutely dead, and it's like, what the fuck? Like that is some power there. It's wild.
It was so cool, and so many people got to witness that too, right? It was such a worldly experience for everybody. Like
very collective,
cool.
Very collective for sure.
Yeah.
Although we didn't
really see anything.
No, it was overcast here, so we just it just got like like it was about to erupt into a giant thunderstorm, and then that was pretty much the gist of her.
Yeah, and then it was like 3 seconds later and it was light again.
Yeah.
Well, it was like a couple minutes, I guess, right? Like,
well, apparently this was the longest one. Now, don't quote me on this, but I did hear that the very first solar eclipse that I've recorded was like 2 minutes, and this one was 4.
Oh, okay.
So,
and apparently there's another one in 20 years.
I don't think it's 20. I think it's every 100 years.
Well, a full solar eclipse, I think.
Yeah, we'll never see another full solar eclipse. So it'll just be partial. Because we had one, I think it was like back before
2017.
COVID. That's right, it was. Because I think I was pregnant actually at the time. I was just about due, and I was wobbling into I don't know, some place to get something, and I remember walking out and being like, oh, that's anticlimactic.
Yeah, well, the whole thing I anticipated this much. I'm like, it's either the end of the world or it's going to be very anticlimactic.
Exactly, right? Exactly.
Yeah. But today we are excited because we're doing our trauma tales. So we have our first episode of our trauma tales, which are little stories from our listeners that they've submitted anonymously that are just, experiences, trauma experiences or situations or events that kind of happen that people are looking to share, but they don't want to actually come on the podcast and like actually do the whole, tell the story thing. They just want to share it anonymously. And so we're going to read one out today and then just talk about it a little bit.
A little bit of chit chat.
A little bit of chit chat about it. So thank you to our first listener who submitted. So I'll start this one off, I guess. Okay. So the story goes, I was in my car driving, and then I came across a man who was stalled on the train tracks. I went over to see if he needed any assistance. The man looked at me, and he, in a very aggressive way, told me to get away from my car. In the meantime, I could hear sounds of muffled cries. When I turned back, the man had a gun in my face, and he told me, if I don't get out of here, I'm going to shoot you. So in a panic, of course, I left. I got in my car, drove away, and went straight to the police station. It turns out that this man was luring women by putting ads in the newspaper from different parts of the world, and then he would assault them.
Jesus.
It did go to court. I had to testify in court about seeing what I saw. And then, this is the crazy part, even crazier. The man looked at me. So the person who was, I guess, like being convicted looked at this person who had to report it, looked at them and said, when I get out, I'm going to kill you.
Jesus Christ, eh?
Could you imagine? Okay, for one, so I have my first aid. And so I have actually, this actually just totally gave me the creeps. I actually was going over the train tracks and a guy had kind of veered off and he'd gone into the ditch, and I did stop. Like,
Ew.
obviously this is like,
was he okay? Like, was
decades later?
He
Because this one, this person said it
he?
was like, it was old. No, but I went over, I'm like, hey, I think I just pulled up. And I was like, hey, do you need any help? Like, you know, I can give you some medical assistance if you need, or if I can call an ambulance, or, you know, do you need any help? And he was like, oh no, I've already called the tow truck, and like, it was fine. That just kind of gave me the creeps. So could you imagine just like seeing somebody who you think needs help because they're stuck,
and really they don't, and they're not happy that your existence is there. They're like, can you please?
Holy shit!
Like, I'm trying to be all murdery up in here. Could you just fuck off, please? Like,
yeah, yeah,
you're wrecking my murder vibes.
Yeah, like, didn't. I mean, I guess like, okay, so this person did say it was like from quite a, because that was just like the Coles Nose version of the story. So, they did say it was some time ago. So this was like,
yeah,
it wasn't like in recent years. So there's no like cell phones or like pictures taken or like anything like that. This was just like a person who experienced this.
It's, you know, I kind of love those old stories because they're so interesting to me, because like there was such a like a process to have to even do anything, right? Like, even, could you imagine,
like you're talking about from like this murderer guy's perspective?
No,
we're assuming it's a murderer.
I mean, no, I'm talking about like from the perspective of the person that stumbles across this.
Oh, okay.
You know, you can't just pick up a cell phone and call somebody. You have to be like, well, fuck, I got to drive 17 miles to the nearest police station and hope that the old sheriff isn't drunk and can come and deal with this really strange situation I just stumbled across.
Yeah, and then be like having to, you know, make note of like where it is and hoping that, you know, because like it would take time, right? Where if like you were to see that today, like you would just like get in your
5
car,
seconds and the police would be there. You'd have 30 people.
And you're like already on the phone
calling.
Yeah, exactly. You're like Googling the, you know, maps the spot.
I just wanted to share something really, really quickly because it popped in my head, and it's just a really quick story. When I worked at McDonald's, I used to work the drive-through, and this one night this guy came through and we had to pull him ahead to get his food, and there was something about this guy that just creeped me out. I didn't know what it was. Anyways, when you park, usually you park at the bottom of the stairs and you come out because you serve them right off the stairs, right? Because you're close to the building. This man parked off and over across the road, like across the drive-through road. So like I had to, not a far walk, but far enough that it was like, why would you park there? What are you doing?
And you're
like, it was weird. Anyways, I come out with the food and he jumps out of his truck and he's got something in his hand and he's like, oh, you can just go put it on the passenger seat.
What?
Why the fuck would I put it on the passenger seat? I'm
you're
like,
you're like, I'm just going to throw it to you.
It's like, I'm like, I'll just put it on the driver's seat. And he starts coming towards me. He's like, no, just put it on the passenger seat. I was like, the fuck I'm doing that. So God. I put it on the driver's seat and then I cheesed the fuck out of there. And then I went in the store and I was shaking because I was like, that was really scary. Like, I don't know if he was going to hit me in the head with something and like push me into his truck. This was at night. This was like 11 o'clock at night.
Oh God.
It was terrifying. Anyways, I just wanted to throw that in there because really
because you've had these like scenarios. I get that you're like, well, that was weird, right? Like that was really weird. I mean, this story, this like trauma tale story, like that would definitely give you some trauma because that's a fucking, especially like it's twofold. It's like not only is it something that you've witnessed, and like you witnessed something fucked because you're like this person is doing something not cool because there's muffled noises or whatever. Then they pull a gun on you.
Well, I'm curious about the intuitive part of that. And then they tell you
they're going to kill you later on. Like, holy shit.
They're like, you wrecked my life. I'd be really curious about like the whole, like, it's too bad sometimes like people don't go into like real detail.
Yeah, we need
about
names.
Like how they were feeling. You know what I mean? Like what, like, did you like intuitively have a feeling? Like I was saying, like I intuitively felt like something wasn't right. I'm just curious if like they overrode that intuitive feeling because they're like, well, somebody's, in distress. So I feel like that's my due diligence is to go and help them.
Yeah.
And then
I feel like I would do that. Like I would probably put my like better gut judgment aside in, cause like you want to give people the benefit of it. You're not, that's not certainly what you're not expecting that when you approach somebody. You don't, expect that they're going to be doing something so nutballs like that's
Well, it's true.
you're
Just like,
thinking, oh, I'm coming at you from like a, you need help, you're stuck on the train tracks. That's a scary scenario. Like, you don't want to be stuck on the train tracks.
Well,
Meanwhile, this
exactly.
person's like tying people up to the train tracks. You're like, holy shit, holy cow, I almost died.
Shouldn't laugh about that. That's not very funny, but it
No.
is. I mean, I guess I'm assuming nobody died by the sounds of it. They didn't really go into detail about that.
No.
So
Interesting too, like that if the person was already, I mean, we're kind of going down like a different rabbit hole here of like crime and stuff, which we also love because we're like all about the forensic files and those types of shows.
I do love the true crime is
true crimes, yeah,
delicious.
But
I
like
know,
interesting how this person would have been that deep into whatever they were doing. Obviously something sketchy AF because they're like, were convicted of something. It would appear from the story. And there was some backstory to it as far as like they would put ads in newspapers and lure the women here. But like interesting that if they were that deep into like their like, you know, this murder almost or like assault or whatever, that they wouldn't just like, I'm surprised they didn't just try to shoot. I guess that's my thoughts. Like you're already like in a bad situation. Like I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's really hard to say because depending on, maybe it was just trigger warning. Maybe it was just like an essay thing and not so much about
the
murder, but
the killing, or like
not
really
about the
like
killing so much as it was just about the sex part of it. So, it's hard to say really, but you're like, well, I've just got a smorgasbord of bad decisions here that I'm making. So maybe I should just get the ball rolling fully and just start murdering people.
Yeah, seriously. I wonder from this listener who submitted the story, I wonder how they felt for like after that point. It would be nice if people are submitting their trauma tale stories to put a little bit of context in, like what you said about like how you felt in that moment, or like what you learned or something like that, so that we have like a little bit of
like I want to know about the intuition parts too, because I do find that fascinating when people
did you like feel something when you went up to the scenario? Like,
well, you find, I don't know if you watch a lot of true crime documentary like I do. It's low key an obsession. Mainly I just really I'm like, how do people work like this? Like, I'm so fascinated by the operation that people just, how they can operate in these different wavelengths of just absolutely no accountability, no empathy, no soul, really.
Well, they're like bipolar or sociopaths and stuff, right?
Well, not all the time. No, that's the thing. No, not at all. Like sociopath, yes, but not the bipolar part. A lot of the time, I mean, it's kind of nutty, really. But again, a lot of these people, when you see, and not just, but a lot of these people come from, like, have some severely traumatic backgrounds. Severely traumatic backgrounds. Yeah. So, I mean, we know that that's all connected. It would just be interesting to know more in depth about like the intuitive parts of things. Mm-hmm. That's what I was getting at, backing up with like talking about people that were like, I knew something was wrong that day. Something felt wrong.
Yeah.
I ignored it because blah, blah, blah. And then, something horrific happened.
Yeah. I can't imagine being in that boat. Like I said, like when I came across that, I mean, it's just interesting, like the parallel. Like I did find a guy who was kind of crashed up on the side of the road where the side or the train tracks were, like on the side of the road, which just gives me the creeps after. But like, I think definitely if you've experienced something that's really kind of, traumatic like this, it doesn't have to be like, like this is like an event that happened that was very traumatic, and how you carry that kind of through, like moving forward. So like this is like multi-level, because this is first a person who is just trying to be nice to help somebody out, and then that's like completely like flipped on its head. And then you believe that you've witnessed something horrific that's happened, and how that would create even less like trust in people as well. And then to like have to be like face to face in court testifying and then be told like I'm gonna fucking kill you. Like that's so crazy, because then you would be that heaviness, like that weight of that. I mean, you hope like, oh well, they're in jail, like they're never gonna find me, but like that would be,
it would
oof.
definitely be something that would fuck with you for sure. I would imagine, like in the
You always
in the
have that in the back
twilight
of
in the
your
twilight
head.
hours, you hear like creaking in the house, and you're like, he's coming, he's here, he's here.
Yeah.
For sure that would be. But I wonder too, like I know that sometimes, and I mean maybe you can attest to this, when you've had a really traumatic situation, something that's really, something that you didn't find out until after was that traumatic, you almost remove yourself from it.
Yeah.
Because you
true.
weren't made aware of it in the first place. And then,
Yeah.
You can kind of take yourself down that rabbit hole, or you can kind of be like, holy fuck, well, that was dodged a bullet there, literally.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe you don't take it on as much as you would per se if you'd had, if you'd really known the depth of what was happening. Like maybe you were the one that found the person tied up in the ditch and you're just like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck's happening here?
Yeah.
So,
I was just looking. It doesn't say if it was a guy or a girl who submitted the trauma tales, because it would be different, I would think, if a girl stumbled upon that scenario, hearing like a muffled woman's voice. Like I'm just thinking when you said about like you hear something in your house, and then like I mean as a woman, it would really be scary for me.
Well, what's another interesting point too? Like there's several times when I've watched shows where people are being interviewed after there was a murder in like an apartment complex or what have you, and a lot of people recount, oh yeah, I heard a lot of screaming and nobody did anything about it.
Oh, I know.
And people just don't do anything, and it's almost like they go into that what do you call it, like almost like a disassociation, because you're like, oh, did I hear that, did I not hear that, maybe I just made that up. It's it's really interesting that we kind of do that. We pull away from people when we're not 100% sure if they need help, or just like, oh, I heard that. Is that was that real? Like, what was that?
Yeah.
Kind of thing, right?
Well, I think because logic takes over a bit, because you're like logically, I mean, of course, like these scenarios are thankfully pretty rare, right? Like any of these, assaults or, killings or whatever, like all these things are extremely rare in most areas of the world. So like your logical brain takes over and you're like, no, like I must, like, that can't be right. That can't be right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's, to some extent, I mean, obviously, you mean this person obviously knew that there was something wrong, because they made the effort to stop. Whether or not they realize, like, obviously they didn't realize to what degree.
Well, they're probably just wrong, like, oh, right? Do you need a push off the tracks or something like that, right? Just thinking,
well, of course, that would be like, logical.
I mean, when you see somebody stuck on the train tracks, that like your instinct is kind of like, the fuck you doing there? Like, this doesn't, this is dangerous for all parties involved.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Well, this is like a very, I don't know, I think that's a good trauma tales to start off with.
Definitely.
I think that's an interesting one to, multifaceted. And I mean, I think like maybe we need a little bit more context to get a little bit deeper into it, but we appreciate like everybody, who has started to submit their trauma tales. It's, sorry, I'm going to have to cut this out because my kid's freaking out.
Oh, that's okay. Just leave it. Who cares? Everybody has kids. Most people listen to us have kids. They know what it's all about.
My husband's with them, but he's sick.
Awesome. Okay. How many times have I had to be like this in a video where I'm like holding a kid's head back because they're like running up asking me for more snacks?
Yeah.
We don't cut that out. There's no point. This is life.
Well, this was a pretty quick episode. But yeah, I think the more context, the better, so that we can get a little bit more nitty gritty into these trauma tales. But I like it. I mean, this is like a different type of, scenario than we've talked about in previous episodes, where we're usually talking about like a specific type of, trauma
Well, I do
experience.
have.
This one's like
This is
it's a little bit different.
definitely up my alley as far as like I like this kind of conversation because there's just I don't know, it's fascinating really.
It is,
And
yeah.
it's it just how truth is always stranger than fiction. That's just all there is to it, and it is
Yeah.
it's such a go-to thing. You're just like, how are people this fucked?
Yeah,
I just
I
don't
know. It is
understand.
bizarre. Like the human mind is interesting for
It
sure, and
definitely
how we
is.
interpret things. And like you, when you said like um you're interested in learning like how people are, like how their mind thinks and how they can think totally differently than how you can think, and everybody interprets situations differently. And it'd be interesting to see like how this person felt afterwards, like if that like carried them, like did they feel burdened by this event for like years after, or
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So for anybody who's listening who wants to submit a trauma tales, give a little context to like what happened after, like, you know, this event happened, or, you know, these events happened, and like how that looked like, what
Yeah,
that looked like for
depth.
you.
Give us
Yeah.
lots of depth. We want to know
Yeah.
exactly how you felt. All of this, its articulation is really, really,
Mhm.
you know, we eat that shit up. So don't be
Yeah.
afraid.
Yeah,
Don't be
for
afraid to
sure.
articulate. Don't be afraid to stretch it out.
Yeah.
Give us the guts. That's what we want.
Yeah. So hopefully people like the trauma tales. We're going to keep doing this. This is something that we're going to keep doing. So for sure, there'll be more trauma tales to come. We do have another one that we have recorded, and it's going to be going out there too. So stay tuned for that, and lots more to come. But thanks everybody. Thanks Squirt for
Thank you.
today. And we will see everybody in the next episode.
Take care.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to hit those subscribe and share buttons. We'll see you at the next one.